Hey everyone! So we spent countless hours enjoying the virtual skies, flying from A to B in a range of aircraft and exploring the landscape below us. For enthusiasts, it's all about creating the most realistic feeling possible, whereas for others, it can just be about having fun or just building up some knowledge. But regardless of your use, it is that simulation of flight that brings us all together. But without the dedication, passion and sheer determination of our development community, we just simply wouldn't have the virtual world we have today. So to celebrate, we're going to spend some time visiting a variety of different developers, speaking to them about their challenges and how they deliver on community feedback and more. All of this is in search of trying to find out what inspires them, how they continue to stay motivated, and just how hard is it for them to put the products that we all know and love into the simulators we all use today. Introducing Developer Month. We are continuing Developer Month in the Golden City. Located only a few hours away in the town of Sacramento, is someone the community is all too familiar with. He has previously worked extensively in bringing the TFDi Design 717 to market and is now the community manager at Rex Game Studios. Of course, we're only talking about one person, and that is Josh Mendoza. Despite being young, Josh has a wealth of knowledge and marketing experience. He is full of ideas, clever ways to engage with the community, and a great understanding of flight simulation. During our lengthy chat, he opens up about his experiences with multiple developers, the challenges he faces being the middleman between developer and the community, and also how he got involved in the first place. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's Developer Month video with Josh Mendoza. So welcome to FS Elite Developer Month. Callum here, and I am joined by the fantastic Josh Mendoza.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Very welcome.
Thank you for flying all the way out to see us. This is awesome.
Thank you for having me. I mean, this is my first trip to the West Coast, so I'm excited to be here, really.
That's all. Well, how do you like it?
It's a bit rainier than I thought it was going to be, but it's been good. I mean, we drove earlier, didn't we, over the Golden Gate Bridge, so that was pretty cool to see. And then you showed me around some of the other streets and stuff, so yeah, I've had a pretty cool first full day here in San Fran. So.
Well, welcome to our wonderful San Francisco city. I had a short drive out from Sacramento to come out here, but I love coming out to San Francisco. It's a beautiful city, and it's awesome to have you out here, and thanks to Thrustmaster for sending you out.
Definitely. I mean, yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. This is really cool. But this isn't about me, this is all about you. So the first question I've been kind of asking everybody who's kind of gone through this and taken the time to be here, just who are you, what you currently do, and then we'll kind of delve into a little bit more about you as we kind of go through this.
Sure. So my name is Josh Mendoza. I'm a support and social media specialist for Rex Game Studios. I go through support and then focus on some of the marketing tactics and stuff going forward with Rex, and kind of getting that in there, and just, focusing on how to approach marketing products to you guys, to set maybe an expectation there that is understood, and help get you guys excited for some new products that are coming out.
So you've your entire time kind of in flight simulation, is that always been geared around marketing and community management and stuff?
Yeah, I would say technically marketing is what I do, but I prefer the community management is really what I specialize in. I love sitting down, talking with people who want to buy our products, have our products, or some way or another just enjoy what we've done, and sharing their experiences, hearing their feedback, relaying that to the development team, and just overall making it so people who want to have their voice heard, their voice is heard within the development team, or maybe seeking out people who may not necessarily be talking directly to us, but are posting in online forums or making their voice heard somewhere else, making sure that even if it's not an official place, that I can find it, seek it, and relay that information to our team, so we can both improve the product for you guys and make you guys happier as a whole.
So, quite a tough job, really, because I mean, it must be quite hard for you to balance kind of the needs from the development side of things, and you're seeing all the requests and all the feedback from the community. So, to kind of be that person in the middle must be quite a tough act for you to balance.
It's you do a lot of focusing on. You gotta look at some stuff and say, okay, is this a need item or a want item? Is it a need to fix, or is it something that maybe we can focus on a little bit later on down the line during less important refinements? Say like something seems off, or just it's not game changing or game killing. That's an important part, but also being able to figure out, is this report even an actual report of something that's happening, or is this person on an old version of the software? Stuff like that, that's really hard, especially when you think you've killed a bug, and then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 weeks later, somebody reports it again. You sit there and you scratch your head because you thought you killed it once and for all. You sat down, you got the first report, you got mini report, you put it all together, you figure out a repeatable way to do that, deliver that to the development team, have them look it over, get them to able to have it happen, push a patch out, QA test it, and then eventually put it out to you. You follow through with that whole process, and then for it to somehow rear its ugly head again, it confuses you. So you gotta make sure that when you look at your reports, that you can go ahead and fish out the ones that may be old or outdated, and just kind of tell them, hey, make sure your software is up to date. And then you have the people who try to deliver a report, but let their emotions take over and kind of come out at an aggressive strategy. And while it may be hard to want to sit there and take it seriously, it's hard when they're getting yelled at, but they do have a valid concern. And trying to put a thick skin on and focus on what they're talking about, and trying to make them a happy customer at the end of the day, because we all want the same thing. Mm-hmm. We want you to have a good, enjoyable flight sim experience, and it's flight sim. We all know it. Stuff happens. Not everything's perfect. We'd love it to be perfect, but we focus on doing QA testing to make sure that it's as good as we can get it for you guys. But edge cases happen and crazy things happen, so you got to focus on doing that and return it back to them, or focus on the testing and then return it to everybody, so that it comes in as good as we can get it state. And then sometimes you just gotta push it out and hope that you got it all right, and if you do it well, for the most part, yeah, everything should be fine, and you should only get like stuff like activation issues, which those are inherently always going to happen. Mm-hmm. But it's just that's our goal. Is the day we push something out and I go to my ticket queue the next day and there's like 5 tickets after like a ton of sales. 5 tickets, that's freaking great. 10 tickets, 12 tickets, 20 tickets, or tickets about issues with purchasing, rather than tickets with the actual product having an issue.
Yeah,
that's like a dream day for a release, is something super easy like that.
And I guess like your role it's either one or two things, either super challenging or super rewarding. Mm-hmm. And I guess when you get those moments, it's the rewarding side of things. That's the exciting part for you. So I guess like my next question really for you is, how do you mentioned about having like a thick skin, and obviously you have to read through all of the comments, whether it's like positive or negative. You kind of have to read through them all, and mm-hmm. It must be quite hard sometimes. So how do you, as someone who works kind of solo in your own place, right, how do you keep yourself motivated, and how do you keep yourself going to kind of deal with those tickets and to support the community?
There are definitely challenging days, especially days where a patch gets pushed out, game-breaking bug, something pops up, and you want to go and you just want to fix it immediately. But it's not always like that. Sometimes it requires a rewrite of something, and it'll take a couple of days. And you just ask people to please be patient. Mm-hmm. We're working as hard as we can to make sure that this gets taken care of. But to stay motivated, I take the rewarding parts of things and I try and remember those. I remember one specific event. I had a customer that started off and they were very disappointed with us and what we had provided them. And we sat through, I heard him out, I talked to him, got to sit down, have a great interaction back and forth. Got his issue solved, he went off and enjoyed the product. That was awesome. Met him later at a convention, and he was super excited to meet me, and to turn an interaction that was initially a negative experience for him into something that's positive. And he looks forward to seeing me and hanging out and just talking to me at the convention. That's super rewarding. You want everybody to have a positive experience like that. And with support, it can definitely test your patience for both sides. For you guys, you may think what I'm asking you to do is super trivial, but I want to make sure that every single step is taken care of. I'd rather not go through and check to make sure our code is completely wrong if you just need to run it as administrator. If that's all it is, then it may seem trivial, but we ask it for a reason. And I wish I could explain every single reason why we ask the little things that we do when we're doing support, but we want to do it because there are some things that just got to make sure that are at least taken care of and squared away first. So patience with that is needed on both sides. And we appreciate everybody who does, sit down and understands we're humans too. We're not a robot on the other side, just interpreting your string of text and importing an answer and just sending it back your way. We want you guys to have a good time and just finding those rewards, those good interactions, and the people who make you smile and appreciate working in the industry, because it's a hobby for everybody. People love flight simming.
Yeah.
And I do too. I don't get to do it as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
But I grew up on flight sim. My first flight sim I had when I was 5 years old. FS9 on a Dell Inspiron, sitting in the living room of there and having an hour to play it before my parents would come over and kick me off, because that was my allotted time to play games. So
do you remember your first ever flight sim experience then?
I don't remember the specific instance, but I remember I was what I'd done is I was in FS9 and there was that was it the DC-3 that they had
On the cover?
on the cover.
I'm not sure of the exact model, but it was definitely something like that.
Something like that. I hopped up in that plane, flew out of Seattle, Tacoma, because I didn't know how to change airports. And I just flew around and I got it so it would fly level, and I just let it fly. And that was super cool. I was flying an airplane. As a 6-year-old, flying an airplane? No freaking way, that doesn't happen. And then I would say the moment it went from sitting there just kind of trying it out to suddenly a full-blown hobby is when I was, whenever Flight Sim X came out. I was in LA, somewhere, I want to say in Studio City at a mall, and I walked into a GameStop or an EB Games, and I saw it sitting there. And my brain was like, whoa, what is this? This is different. I haven't seen this one before. So I looked at the back and I saw jetways on one of the photos. And I'm like, that's what I wanted this whole time. They added what I wanted. So I got the game and then I threw it in my bag and flew back home and I installed it. Now, same Dell Inspiron that definitely shouldn't have ran FS9 in the first place is definitely not going to run FSX. It was artifacting like crazy, but I was having such a fun time flying around in the default A320 one and the 737, and I couldn't get the jetways to show up. I later realized that I needed to change the scenery density, but if I would have done that would have definitely just lit the computer on fire. So that was just the snowball, the initial snowball for my whole flight sim hobby as a whole.
So I was thinking about this earlier. I don't personally remember my first add-on. I don't remember the first time I added something to the basket and actually paid physical money. I downloaded a few freeware files from like Avsim and stuff. Do you remember what your first ever payware was?
I do, and I actually still have it sitting on my my shelf at home. I'd go down to Fry's Electronics, and they would have a whole section of different flight simulator stuff. And I would always walk over there, and as a kid, I can't afford any of them, but I would love to look at what they have. And I found it so cool. And then eventually one year for my birthday, I asked for I think it was the Wilco Airbus Series 1, and then Traffic X, or My Traffic, one of those two. And I got them both for my birthday. And I gotta say, that Wilco, that Airbus, was so cool because I had a 3D cabin, and I'd set it off, put it at cruise, and I'd climb in the back and sit there like I was on the actual plane. And that was the most exciting thing for me as an 11-year-old or 12-year-old at the time. Just getting to sit in a plane that I was flying, going where I wanted to go without
from the comfort of your own living room.
Exactly. And I fell in love with it. And then the first time I got like a true study level one was I asked for the NGX for Christmas one year. And after I got my own personal computer, and that was cool because I got to finally experience what, in-depth realism is. Going into the flight computer, typing something in, it blew my mind trying to figure that all out. But once I had it figured out, I watched like YouTube videos online, somebody doing a cold and dark startup. It was like, cold and dark startups to me were the craziest thing. You mean you don't hit Control E to turn on the plane? And it was super awesome to just kind of go from not knowing anything about how to fly a commercial airliner to knowing how to fly this simulation of a commercial airliner and being able to do it in a way that was semi-realistic. And I could sit there and act like I was the captain. And for somebody who wanted to be a pilot since they were 4 years old, this was pretty darn cool.
Yeah. So how did Josh flying a aircraft on their sim go to Josh, the community manager for a couple of big branded flight simulation developers?
So one of the cool things about my high school is we had a program called GBIT, and what it was is it was based around information technology within the high school, and it was set up in a way that it was a student-led program. So there were 3 different teams. You had a web development team, you had a technology team, or kind of like your general IT people, and then you had a management and development team. And the way it would work is you would interview to join this class, and they would, if you were accepted, you were given the opportunity to request a certain team. I chose the web team because I really liked web development at the time, and I joined in as a technician underneath another student who was the leader of the team, who was underneath another student it was like almost a triangle.
Sure.
So there was one student at the top, and then there were like 4 students that led the teams, and then there were like the teams were 5 people each. So it was like a work environment, and I got to sit down, learn how to not only do web development, but also work with clients, sit down, work with directives and ticket queues most importantly, and know how to have customer service, because you can't just go around talking however you want to talk to customers. You got to talk to them and treat them like they're your customers. Even if one period they're your teacher, the next period you may be having to fix their computer. So having that general level of respect was able to teach me a lot about how to take care of and treat people. And I did that for 5 semesters. I did 2 semesters as a bottom level technician, and then 3 semesters as an actual manager for one of the teams. So I got to learn how to go ahead and get tasks and delegate them out to people. So figuring out what was needed, taking care of that. Translate that to I was actually in the program when I went ahead and reached out to the president of TFDi at the time, Colin, and this one's pretty funny. I found him on Facebook. Saw that his little banner image was of a video game called Payday 2. I played that too. I wrote him and said, "Hey, we should totally play games sometime." And he said, "Sure, yeah, absolutely." And we sat down and we one day we played games and got along really well with the team. And so spent 2 or 3 months just hanging out with them. And then it was getting towards the end of the semester in high school, and I needed something to do, kind of pass the time. So I kind of like nagged them and said, "Hey, do you guys need somebody for support?" No, not really, not at this time. But I knew at the end of the day, they needed one because I would be on the Skype calls with them. At the same time, it would be 10 p.m., 11 p.m. at night, and they'd be like, "Ah, crap, support tickets, we forgot to do those." And they would get online and do some support tickets, and sometimes it would be like 1 a.m. and they were about to go to bed, and they're like, "Oh man, we got to do support tickets." So then they would be up for another hour answering tickets. And so having somebody to just make sure to do that for them and make sure that gets handled was something that I figured would be good. What they ended up doing is they wanted to test to make sure that I was a competent human being and can handle myself in an environment. They had acquired Jetstream radio from Flight Unlimited, and those guys that were running it. And they went ahead and handed it to me and said, "All right, you're the station manager, turn this into something." So I was given it, and I started to do overhauls, brought the listenership back up. I think it increased probably like 3 times or so from when I got it to when I left. And kind of just, I don't know radio. My grandpa's a radio DJ, so I was able to have someone who was at least somewhat experienced explain to me maybe some of the insides of radio and how it works. But being able to figure out how to handle myself and how to kind of learn on the fly was super important. And from there, they let me go ahead and prove myself, and then at the end of the year, they brought me on as a support technician, since I obviously didn't just let it crash and burn and took care of it and wanted to make sure it gets taken care of. And then I did that for a couple of months, and I was also had a thing on the side. It was a Facebook page called World of Aviation, and it was actually getting a pretty good following. When I joined it with like 2 other guys, we had about 800 likes, and by this time it had gotten up to 25,000 likes. So I was feeling a little confident about how I understood how social media worked with Facebook. So I figured maybe I could help them out with their Facebook page. So kind of 2 weeks, 3 weeks of nagging, saying, "Hey, by the way, hey, by the way, hey, by the way," and eventually they let me try it out and kind of take over interacting with the people. And from there, I grabbed the Twitter and started doing that, started doing synergizing between the posts to make sure everything's cross-posted. And then, as we're getting closer to the development cycle, I had also been doing Twitch streaming on the side as just kind of like a hobby for myself while I was enjoying the hobby. And I figured this would be a cool opportunity to introduce people to the team and let them kind of meet us in Q&A with us. We wanted to do a development stream. They'd done one before. There was the Smart Cars 2 development stream, and that's actually how I found out about TFDi, was I was in that stream.
Okay.
So I went from that to all of that, what you just heard. And then their next stream, a year and a half, 2 years later, would be led by, or organized and figured out to go ahead and stream it. And I was part of the key people making that happen. It's kind of weird how they went from one stream 2 years later to that was how I found out about it, and then the next stream would be I'd be an integral part of making sure it happened.
Wow.
And I spent a lot of time making sure that the stream was ready, and we could show off the 717 for the first time on live stream. And it actually went really cool, excluding a 747 that crossed in front of us on the runway. Gotta love that sim sometimes.
I remember watching that and thinking, oh God, oh no, oh it did.
It did.
But hey.
But we just disconnected. We went around, disconnected, and came in for a landing. Because that's the awesome part about flight simulation is you can, you don't like what's going on, you can just change the game.
Exactly.
Change the rules. And then from there, I just kind of wanted to keep on keeping the community engaged because I felt like that was a really cool part. So I got the cool experience of getting to hype a product up, and then I got the real life experience of having to deal with a product after maybe not the greatest release, but making sure that the expectations were met and that people's voices were being heard. And from there, I have both the fun and enjoyable, rewarding part you were saying, and then the super challenging part, which, I mean, you need balance. Not everything can be just all rewarding. You got to have some sort of challenge, or else, what's the point of working? It's all fun.
So, basically, you kind of went from doing some bits on the side at school, and then you kind of worked your way up and got invested with different people, and that's a very cool way to kind of get into the kind of industry, I would say. But
it's not normal. Most people go for a different way to get in, by being a developer and developing their own stuff and then doing all that. But as somebody who hates coding and hates modeling, but knowing how it all works, I knew I was not going to get in on talent. So I had to find another thing that I would be good at, that I could bring to the table that may not necessarily be often brought to the table.
So so obviously you've now moved on and you're now at Rex, as you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So how's that transition been for you from being so involved with one company and then kind of moving into something, and again moving to Rex must have been quite a shift from your previous experience of like aircraft, for example, and now you're kind of more in the weather texture side of things. How's that influenced and changed?
Well, it's been really interesting because the personalities of both companies are very different, but that's not a bad thing at all. I find it really cool because I'm used to operating in one space with one set of how things are. Now moving to another space, I'm getting to learn some cool new ways to do things that I may have not necessarily been able to see before, or may not have thought of, which has been exciting. But the transition itself was it was a couple of months. I think I took like 3 months, focused on a couple of other things that I needed to take care of in my life, and then I started working for Rex in I think November, and just trying to make sure it would work out. We would jive really well, and it ended up working out really well. We had some cool stuff that we wanted to do, and now we're getting to start to implement some of the marketing strategies that I want to take care of. I think we have some cool new marketing things coming out soon that we want to look at. I know we want to do live streams and kind of get people to be able to hang out with us, talk to us, ask questions about future products like Environment Force or Weather Force, and just discuss different things that are you may not necessarily go out of your way to ask, but if it's a convenient thing like a live stream where you can see the product, see how it's interacting, maybe you might just get a question randomly in your head and you're like, heck, I want to ask this to developers, and we're there. And so I want to bring some of the cool ideas that I've learned that they may not necessarily have implemented right now, but a lot of what I've talked to them about, they've been super awesome and want to hear it all out, and that's really cool. So I'm excited. Rex has some awesome products coming out, so getting to sit down and think of cool new marketing strategies for that is it's fun,
It must be, especially for like Environment Force, because it's such a visual product. That must be quite fun for you to think of all these like different strategies and stuff.
Well, what's interesting about it, I think, for me, it's really different in the regards of Environment Force versus an airplane. An airplane is exactly what you see. It's really not that hard to explain what it does and how it is. Whereas Environment Force is such a multifaceted program that does so many different things that some of it's very subtle, while some of it's very, very abrupt and is easy for you to see. It's hard to show the subtleties because they may be slight, but what they're doing is really cool. I love like the slow dynamic dissipating formation of the clouds. I love it because not having while you're flying, not having a storm just suddenly appear in front of you like, oh hi, I'm a storm cell, I'm here now, hello. Having it, you've seen it start to form over a 5-10 minute time period, and see it kind of building out, and you're like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And being able to show stuff like that, it's hard because it's not an immediate, this is this and that is the effect, like an aircraft would be, where I turn on the lights come on. I turn on the windshield wipers, oh, it's wiping away the water. So it's a new challenge, and I'm excited to see how to kind of show that to people and get people as excited as we are about them, because they're really cool technologies that people have never seen before in flight sim, and that's why we're so excited for Environment Force. Just kind of doing the different things and showing all that off.
I think live stream's a really unique way to do it because, like you said, the smaller things, you can take that time and effort to kind of talk to the audience you've got and say, right guys, so if we're just going to watch this space for a few minutes, you're going to see the clouds start to form, and if you try to do that through pictures and text and stuff, it just wouldn't work as effective. So
it's not it's really hard to show it off on a product page. I mean, it is possible, but it's not something that you're going to make a reader try and explain that over time, 5 minutes, this will happen, or if you're under these conditions, the lighting will change a little bit. It's a lot of nuances that you want them to see and understand, but it's not something that's easily explained. So I'm looking forward to the live streams. Getting to chat with the community is awesome because so many people get excited about the new products that are out there, and it's hard not to. What other developers are doing is incredible. I feel like every day I wake up, there's something new going on that some developer is doing that it's like, why didn't I think of that? Duh, that's super cool. Why couldn't I feel like we could probably do that, but they're coming up with it, and they're constantly keeping all the developers on their toes. And it's such a great time because keeping every developer on their toe to make the next big move is exciting. One of my favorite things was coming to Cosford in 2017 with True Glass for TFDi. That was incredible because I knew for how many years had we said rain effects on a 3D virtual cockpit was impossible, and suddenly we were going to come in and just say, yeah, we did it. We're the first to actually do it in a dynamic manner that works and it's not frame rate intensive. And seeing over the course of the next year how that started a snowball effect. Now, if you don't have rain effects in your cockpit, what are you doing? That's it's like not having night lighting. You gotta have night lighting. I think if you're gonna fly through rain, you want rain effects on the windshield. So
I think that's really cool because sometimes we view competition in quite a negative way, I feel sometimes, but actually what it does is it helps to move the products and the platform forward. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's quite cool. I do want to ask you something. You touched on it just now about the different events. As someone who's so invested in the community and the marketing and stuff, why are these events, Cosford, FS Expo, and all the other cool stuff that goes on, why is that so important, do you think, to the community as a whole?
Well, one, you get to meet wonderful people like Caleb and get to chat with them, people you see online and may have questions for. I think that's really awesome to get to sit down and talk with them and get to meet people that you may have talked with online, had conversations with. But it's also super cool because we all get to share in a shared unified experience of this is what we all love. We all love flight simulation. It's you can sit down and have a discussion with somebody that, I'll be honest, when I'm at home, I really don't have anybody I can discuss it with in real life. When I talk about Flight Simulator, it's mostly followed up with, that's really cool, and a look of confusion. But being able to discuss that with somebody and have that kind of conversation where we can all enjoy each other's company, it allows for kind of, you get to make new friends in the industry. It's also really cool because getting to put names to faces, especially for us as developers, you know, it humbles us a little bit, makes us sit down and appreciate that we're affecting people's lives. We're making a difference. These people are coming home. They're using our products. This is their casual time. So it's really cool to sit down and get to meet the people that, you know, you get to help affect their life and hopefully bring happiness to it. So,
and I think it works both ways, because even before I was doing all of this, to come and see developers and stuff was just awesome, because I'd be flying around or, you know, using weather or whatever, and you kind of forget that there are people behind who make all of that stuff. So to come to the events and actually talk to the people and say, hey, this is a really cool product, have you thought about this, this and this, and the response you get is incredible, because they're like, no, we haven't. And then the next thing you know, it's kind of made it in its way into a release cycle, and I think that's awesome.
I would say a great example of that was when we were at Flight SimCon in Connecticut in 2017.
Yeah.
And I think I probably could count, I would need more hands than I have, how many times I got asked, when are rain effects coming into that? And you had Flight Sim World, which just introduced it.
Oh, it was a huge meme the entire time. Do you remember that panel as well? And it was every other question was like, when are you getting rain effects? And you had Lockheed up there going, I don't know. Laminar researcher going, I don't know. And then Dovetail like, we have it.
Yeah. And as I'm sitting there, it's like, okay, well, obviously people want rain effects. So how can we make that happen? I know that when we were at TFDi, we had done some research and development into it in 2016 in the FSX engine, and it just wouldn't work. But what we had done, that code we had kept just somewhere in the event that one day we could find another way to implement it in a way that would work. And when prepared version 4 came out and introduced the PDK, we were able to use that and find a way for it to work. And that was incredible. To use code from 2016 that we had written off as a dead project, but we had shelved it just in case.
Yeah.
In the event something happened. Coming back from Flight SimCon, I know I had we all had a conversation about, okay, this is something that's really wanted by the community. It's been heard. How can we make this happen for them? And we literally in July, we had started sitting down and figuring out, okay, this is what we want to do. And we started focusing on bringing that to life, because obviously you had version 4 coming out soon, 64-bit. We don't have to worry as much about the out of memory errors and stuff, so we can be a little bit more audacious in our technology implementation. So being able to re-look at that and not have to worry about, well, how is this going to affect VRAM? How is this going to affect this? How is this going to affect that? And being able to implement it and then bring that back, like I said, is just so cool, because we finally, that was one of the most proud things, was bringing that to the community, saying, all right guys, you've asked for how many years now? You made a big stink about it in 2016 or 2017 over at the convention. We heard you. We sat down and we made sure that we could find a way to make it happen. Here we are. And there you go. Without the convention, that would have never happened.
And I think that's just one story of multiple occasions where feedback from the community has really influenced kind of developers' thought process and how they implement stuff as well. So thank you for sharing that little story with us.
Okay, so some of the fun things that happen when you're working as a developer is the late nights. So when you have a bunch of developers in a Skype call at 2 a.m. after a late night, like anything, like just a coding session or just trying to ham out stuff, some of the funniest things happen on those Skype calls. I know Brandon Filer has, he constantly has in NVIDIA the shadow play running. So anytime anything funny will happen, we'll just hear click, and that recording is now saved. So some nights, like, we'll just go back and we'll like listen to some of the funny stuff. So we'll be sitting there and all of a sudden, we'll be like coding, somebody sharing a screen, and all of a sudden like something crazy happens, and then we all just get all crazy, start screaming like autopilot, and some of the silliest things, and it's like you're sitting there and you go back and you get to enjoy some of the cool experiences that we've been through as a developer, and seeing like, oh, I remember when that happened. And this like, we were in the middle of working on True Glass, and instead of putting rain effects on the windscreen, what we did is we just put what the viewer was already seeing. So when you're in OBS and you draw like the screen out, and then it just kind of keeps on going infinite. We had every single window was displaying what we were seeing already. So it just was like cockpit after cockpit after cockpit outside the window, and as we would move, like all the cockpits would shake around and all of that. And it's just like stuff like that, and you get to have fun with your projects and get to do different fun things that you normally wouldn't get to do. My favorite, when we were developing the 717 and we didn't have the integrated standby instrument system. I'm not gonna say the acronym for it, but it wasn't finished. So we were having to try and figure out, well, what do we do? It's not finished. What do we put there? I'm like, dude, just make a sticky note, slap in-op on it. If you look at all those development streams, you'll just see a little in-op sticky on the secondary display, and it's just like we got stuff like that in there. My favorite story. Okay, so March 30th of last year, I was sitting there with Brandon, and it was March 31st. I don't know. It was the day before April Fool's, and I love April Fool's. As a developer, you get to have some fun stuff.
Yeah.
You guys have fun with it. I love having fun with it and coming up with different ideas that get the community to just have a good laugh. It's awesome. Everybody has a good time. Well, I had wanted to do a balsa wood model airplane simulation for 3 years. That was in my like to-do list, but I never had time. So finally, the day before, I'm like, oh, how hard can it be? We'll just draw a quick model, extrude it out, put it into the sim, put some textures on it, sell it out, or send it out. No problem. 2-hour job. I forgot that I'm working with the person who's a perfectionist and loves to make everything just look awesome. So what started out as thought to be a 2-hour job, turned out to, we were up till 4 a.m. on April Fool's Day making a product. We went from having nothing to a product page with images that are in like super cinematic views with textures. We even brought in some of our other graphics designers, and we worked on making it so the reflection mapping would look like it's actually grain on the wood and all of that. So it's like every little detail is done to the umpth degree to make it look like this is as serious as it gets. It's the best balsa wood model on the market, hands down. For one day. It was on the market for one day. But we had a whole product page that talked about all the different features, the in-depth systems that we have, the animations, everything. And it was my favorite thing because I just sent it out, and you have the Balsa X model. And then my favorite was getting people who took that and then took it to another level and did reviews on it.
Yeah.
And released it, like a video of like an in-depth like teardown of the whole entire thing, and they're like, and their systems are up to the perfect degree of how they are in real life. There are no systems on board this aircraft, just like the real thing. And it's just like, yes, people are taking it that step further.
Study level aircraft.
Exactly. And it's just like, those are some of my favorite moments. It's just kind of having fun with the community. and just enjoying flight simulation for what it is, a hobby. So.
Definitely. So you say, so flight simulation is a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
What other stuff do you have outside of flight simulation that you have interests in?
So I'm a big space nerd. I love watching SpaceX, ULA launches, Rocket Lab launches. I went to 7 launches in person last year.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw 5 down in Vandenberg and 2 out in Cape Canaveral. And I love going to them because they're so incredible. To think, okay, what I'm looking at right now that's about to take off 10 minutes from now is going to be going around the Earth at 27,000 miles per hour. I think, what is that, 14,000 kilometers or 13? I don't know. I'm bad with math.
And I'm British. We don't use kilometers.
I still don't understand that. But I love space stuff. I think it's super cool and interesting, and I guess you could say it's funny. I mentioned him again, but Brandon Filer, he's also into space stuff. So what me and him do is we go on Kerbal Space Program, and right now we're coding a whole mod for Kerbal Space Program that has a rocket that'll automatically take off, land, do the payload deployment. It'll land the first stage on either a drone ship or back at the launch pad. And we're designing a custom rocket, having it modeled. I love this because we're doing what we did in flight sim development. We're trying to push the boundaries. So we're trying to introduce PBR-like effects into a game that doesn't have PBR. We've developed he went ahead and developed a thing that when it re-enters, it kind of like changes how the rocket looks. It looks like it's been burned up a little bit, and it just comes back down. And he's like doing all these different things that we've been doing in a completely different game, and this one's just for our own personal thing. And we even have a friend who works at a aerospace defense company, and he is like one of the people who codes the basically things that hang underneath the airplane wings that go off and go really fast and hit something.
Okay.
Yeah, and he codes the part where it goes and hits them. So he's having a fun time because he's never actually had to code the part where it lands, because it never has to land. So he's been having fun, and we're doing the math with him and figuring out how all that math works, and it's keeping us on our toes. So that's one thing. And then I really enjoy like Disney and Disney history. I love going to the parks. I had an annual pass, and I'm gonna get a new one here in a couple of weeks. I went something like 23 times in the last 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun, and I love bringing people. My favorite part is the history of all of it. Actually, just around the corner from here, over in the Presidio, is the Walt Disney Family Museum, which is really cool because you get to hear about the history of how he came to California, started out with Mickey Mouse, and how he turned that into the empire it is today, and get to see all the history of Disneyland and all that. And I love taking people, giving them tours of the park, talking about the different cool things that you may not necessarily see initially, but if you know the backstory of it, you're like, wow, that's actually a really cool thing. It's a really subtle touch, but once you know the story of it, it makes it infinitely cooler, and you start noticing all the little details around the park that you may not necessarily see because you're so focused on making sure you make your Space Mountain Fast Pass. So you're just running by. So yeah, those are like 2 of my main things I really enjoy. Obviously, I enjoy cars. I love racing.
Sure.
on the simulator. I race with sponsor spot here, with some Thrustmaster gear. But I have like a whole racing setup at home. I love going on iRacing. I'm terrible at it, so if you look up my name, you'll find me. I'm a D class. I'm not anywhere up to the C, B, or A classes, but I'm working towards that. Or hopping in like project cars and going around the Nürburgring and just having fun. Just good times. And then playing games and hanging out with friends. So those are all different things I like to enjoy doing when I'm not sitting there entering your support tickets.
Awesome. So, something I want to ask you, and I imagine it's going to be a bit of a tricky one, is so you're a marketing community, that is your bread and butter essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So from your perspective, what is your perception of how other developers and how other publishers currently do their marketing for flight simulation? Do you have a thought behind it, or any advice that you might want to give, or what's your thoughts?
Well, I would say that certainly there's been an established way of doing it for a long time, and the established way may not necessarily be in my eyes, the best way to continue going forward with it. A lot of it based around print media, and traditional advertisements, low engagement, just hoping for click-throughs and trying to get their attention that way. For my opinion, I think engagement is really the new thing. You got social media, you have a way to communicate with your customers. Not taking advantage of that is the worst thing you can do. You have people who are willing to tell you what they're looking for, and how all that works, or just want to be excited about the project and let you know too, and not making that or not engaging with them. It may not necessarily hurt you, but it's certainly not helping you either. So for me, I would love to see more people doing the live streams. I would love for what I brought to the table, bringing new live streams and getting new engaging content to be something that's of a norm. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
And I hope that other people start to see what we're doing and see that people love to talk with other people. People love to talk with the people that they're looking forward for their products for.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to kind of change up how you've been doing it for years, but social media is new. And as people migrate from print media and traditional forms of advertising to more of a engaging and may not necessarily even cost you money advertising. Yeah, you need somebody to man it, so I guess there is some cost to it, but having a way to engage with your user base for free is it's something that you should be taking advantage of. I mean, Twitter is a great example. You get 280 characters to talk to people. I mean, short, quick answers, and it can do so much good or bad. I mean, you look at Elon Musk dealing with stuff, talking. He gets straight to the people and gets them in trouble sometimes. But what it does is it allows you for that direct interaction.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll admit, when I was younger, having a developer if I had a developer reply to me on something, that would have made my day. Seeing, PMDG replied to something, or I don't know, some other company reply to a comment that I would make, I would have been over the moon to have that kind of interaction, because it's, they care about you. And I think that says a lot as a company. So, I mean, and I guess you could, to anybody who's coming into the industry, I highly recommend that. Just take a look at it. How would you want to be dealt with? Because a lot of people focus on customer service, and customer service may not. You may think of it as your support queue and your emails, but think of it beyond that. What it can do for you outside of just that. Now that you have access to your customers directly, having something that will instantly notify them on their phone. If they're reaching out to you, saying something to you, you can ping them right back, instantaneously.
Yeah.
That is something so new. It's unheard of. I mean, I guess you had emails before, but think about that on steroids. Get to have that interaction.
I think you're right. The engagement's powerful, and it's something we've learned, and we've tried really hard to kind of develop as FS Elite, is to kind of interact with the community and reply to comments, or every now and then, if we do a question of the week, we say, for example, what products are you most looking forward to, and we see a whole list of stuff. And we reply, and then sometimes we give out freebies. It's just, there are some cool new ways I think people can engage, and I think it's really interesting you talk about that. There is the traditional stuff, and I still think it works to some extent, but there are new and exciting and more cost-effective ways, I would say, to build that. So
Yeah,
some good advice, I think, to developers out there.
yeah.
So the final question I want to ask you really is, if you could go back in time to before you kind of knew the stuff that you knew now, what advice would you give yourself to Josh just about to start on this adventure of community engagement and management?
Well, the first thing I would do is, yes, buy the 2 monitors. It will help. That's where I would start. But kidding aside, I would say that just focus on the positive things. It's easy. It is easy for us to get focused on the negatives because it's so you feel almost defeated, and especially when you're having a bad day or something like that. But focus on the positive because there's a lot of it out there, and I call it the 1 in 10 rule. 1 in 10 people who are actually having a positive experience will say something, or maybe even as high as 1 in 100. I was reading another statistic on Amazon that was like 1 in 100 people will actually leave a 5-star review when they're satisfied with the product. The other 99 are satisfied but won't leave a review.
Yeah.
And just kind of think about it that way. When you do have a positive experience, there are 99 other people that have not said that they're having a positive experience but are having one. And kind of, focus on keeping up the chin high and, powering through the hard times, especially the months with rigorous development and nothing to say to the community. Those are the hardest. But power through it and, make sure you stay true to your character and tell the community how things are actually going. Be honest with the community. Honesty goes a lot farther than trying to joke around or hide behind a facade that isn't necessarily how it's actually going. So.
Awesome. Some good advice. So listen, thank you so much for being here today. I think you've given some real insight, and I think hopefully a lot of the community will appreciate kind of the stuff that you as a support person and marketing person and community manager kind of go through on a daily basis to kind of deliver what you do. So from myself and the FS Elite team, and I'm sure many members of the community, thank you very much for all of the effort that you put in.
Thanks for listening to the interview. If you guys made it this far, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
It's been a long interview, but thank you guys. I really appreciate having you guys here, and I look forward to hopefully getting to chat with you guys here soon, maybe at another expo or on a live stream one day. So,
Awesome.
Thank you guys.
Great. Thank you, Josh. So thank you so much for watching another Developer Month video. We're going to be back tomorrow with yet another Developer Month piece of content for you. Thank you for watching, and stick with us at fselite.net.